Hello there, Capricorns. Welcome to your November 2019 tarot reading. Before I begin, let me just say that you guys have a bunch of cards that flipped out and a bunch of messages that are still trying to come out. And I almost feel like you're getting like 5 images coming through in this reading, and each image corresponds to each one of these pairs of cards. I'm going to go from left to right and just try to form a coherent story, okay? I just want to say, first of all, this is going to be a really good month, okay? It requires you to be a little bit more like nimble on your feet. You are in a position where you're going to have to kind of like change direction, change strategies, change the method of doing multiple times. So you're going to need to be very nimble on your toes. You're going to need to anticipate roadblocks and problems before they become, detrimental, so that you can change your strategy. And I feel like it's a month where there's a lot of dealings with other people, and with a lot of Capricorns in general. If you were in a cubicle doing your own thing, you're very happy, okay? You don't need like inputs and crowdsourcing and things like that from other people. But I feel like this is a month where you're doing a lot of damage control, where a lot of unexpected twists and turns will come in, especially in the work environment, wherever you're spending the majority of your time. And I feel like it's in the work environment. And then I'm also sensing like a lot of last minute changes and a lot of just things that you have to take care of at a moment's notice, okay? Keep in mind as well that throughout the month of November, is the entire month is we're in the Mercury retrograde transit time frame. So if for those of you who are dealing with a lot of software, a lot of technology, a lot of communication with other people, these are the where the areas where these problems will kind of creep up, because Mercury does rule communication and mental processes and workflow and efficiencies in a way. And so old ways, old methods, outdated methods of doing have to kind of like be broken down, so that we can find a better way to do things. A better way will emerge, okay? So first of all, what I'm seeing here, the first image is I'm seeing a bunch of children. There's an apple tree with a lot of fruit, and there are a bunch of children. They're like young kids, 6, 7 years old. They're underneath the tree, and they're picking all the fruit. And they're picking only what their arms can reach, right? Because they're little children, and they don't think about, oh, why don't we just harvest the whole apple tree? Why don't we step on the ladder? Why don't we just, make sure that we get everything? They're not really thinking like that. So in this environment, I feel like low-lying fruit, and I feel like a laziness, and I feel like a situation where there's no plan, there's no strategy. It's just every man for himself. Everybody grabs whatever is easiest, like, the low-lying fruit. The easy argument, the easy way out, the path of least resistance, the minimal amount of effort that yields the greatest amount of reward, okay? So it's a very impulsive, self-serving, and just, that type of a situation, okay? And so that's the first thing that came out. And then the second image that is kind of piggying back off that first image is I see a situation where it's like a balcony, and it's a very old balcony. It reminds me almost like a house that was built a long time ago, and there has never been any maintenance, any structural change, any type of reinforcement to this balcony. And they're putting seats out on the balcony so that people can wine and dine and have like balcony seating. And so people keep running out, keep coming in, and there's like cracks along the foundation of this balcony. And it goes unaddressed, it goes unchecked, it goes unrepaired. And then I feel like over time it's just going to get worse and worse. So the wear and tear on a situation that is not structurally sound, I feel like that's creating problems. So those two issues, I feel like they represent especially the first four cards here. And I feel that the energy is about, it's like I see some of you in a situation here where structurally and foundationally something is not working, okay? For some of you, this can be like a household situation where many of you feel like you're telling somebody, hey, you should do this, you should do that, but they're not really listening to you because they're programmed a certain way, and their programming doesn't require them to update. It doesn't require them to, like take a time out and try to get their hardware or their software to the latest technology. And so I feel like they're outdated, their method of doing, their method of thinking, and they're losing out when it comes to efficiency, when it comes to doing things the proper way, doing things the more efficient way, being on the up and up, and using like the latest type of technology. They're outdated, they're being rendered obsolete, and they're not really aware of that. So I feel like there's a situation here where it's like innovate or get trampled out, So I feel like there's a huge thing here about technological advances that are not properly being utilized because the people are resistant to it. And I also feel like there's a better way to do something, but people are so stuck in their past, in the things that they have always done, in the tried and true, and they're lacking in the ability to innovate. So the first thing I'm seeing here is the Six of Cups, okay? And this is a non-traditional deck, by the way, and I'm using it for the first time. I hope it works out, but it so far has been giving me a lot of messages, so I like it so far. So the Six of Cups is about nostalgia. It's about, walking down memory lane, doing something, yearning for something from the past and not wanting to change. And we also have the Four of Wands. This is the structure, the foundation. And the Four of Wands denotes pretty much a situation like something that is very, very stable. It can be very slow to change. It can be very, very rigid. And it has withstood the test of time. And so it doesn't feel like it needs to change. It doesn't feel like it needs to evolve. It doesn't feel like it needs to get with the times, okay? So I'm seeing here a situation where people are mired in or deeply ingrained in the past, and they're not willing to innovate. They're not willing to step out of their comfort zone. They're not willing to try new things, even though the reality is telling them that, your old way is not really working. You need to be a little bit more innovative. You need to be a little bit more like, you need to think about the greater good. You need to think about, getting all those apples from the tree, because what will inevitably happen is the bottom of the tree where everyone has picked the fruit is barren. And then the fruits that are on top, they're just going to rot. They're just going to fall off, and no one gets to enjoy the fruit of that labor. Okay, so I feel like there's a situation here where there's so much room for innovation, for success. There's so much dynamism that can happen out of this situation, but there's a lot of resistance from other people because whatever you're trying to introduce, whatever you're trying to bring into the fold, that will guarantee a lot of success. We have the Sun here. This is like innovation. This is like, that light bulb, okay? Like having a very ingenious idea, being recognized for ingenuity, being recognized for originality, being recognized for some type of a new way of doing, to streamline processes, to adapt, and to be innovative. And yet people are so stuck in the past that they're not able to accept this groundbreaking thing that you're trying to bring into the picture. So I feel like you have a lot of convincing to do when it comes to dealing with other people, showing them a better way to do things, showing them a healthier, a more less self-serving way to do things. But I feel like not everybody's going to be on board. So I feel like there is a little bit of a tug of war here, okay? Like not giving slack, not giving leeway. These ropes, these banners are stretched pretty tight, and they're stretched because they want to maintain the status quo. And so, interestingly enough, we have the devil, in which is traditionally the card of Capricorn. In this depiction, what it indicates to me is you're on top of the tree, you're looking down at the situation, and you're like, the people underneath, the little kids picking off the low-lying fruits, it's a little bit selfish. Okay, so I feel like you're trying to um, you're trying to find a way to incentivize people to behave in a better manner, to do things in a better manner. And you're just trying to figure out, like, what is their incentive? What can I use to motivate them? What is their main driver? And what can I do, or what can I, say to persuade them into this better way of doing, this better way of thinking, this better way of living. And so I feel like, the majority of the month, what's on your mind, or the big problem that you're trying to solve, is finding the right incentive structure, finding the right way to introduce this really groundbreaking situation into the picture, trying to get everybody on board, and trying to get people to see outside of themselves, have a better, like, bird's eye view of a situation. Because once they start to see the whole situation and the larger picture, they might be inclined to do things differently. So I feel like you've got a challenge ahead of you, but I feel many of you, this is going to be a really, it's like a task that you are really eagerly wanting to take on, because you know that you can succeed in changing minds. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing here.